A few days ago, my YouTube channel passed. Oh no, it's about a month ago actually. It passed 1 million views, so it's become quite big. And one of the things that's linked to that is that you get lots of random people leaving comments. Some of the comments are absolutely like so insightful. Um, and basically, there are others where they're just describing situations that have happened, to them personally, and then they're recounting that on as a written comment, which is like valuable source of information. So, I really appreciate the people that do write comments. Occasionally, though, you do get something a bit sort of left field, and that happened about a week ago when somebody who described themselves as being an ethno-nationalist left a comment on my channel. He was quite interested in economics, and he wanted to start a conversation about economics because he didn't really know much about it. So anyway, I didn't really know what an ethno-nationalist was exactly, so I thought I'd quiz him. And what he said it was is that it's a way of running a country where the only people that are permitted to live in that country by the government are people of a certain ethnicity. So this guy was from Finland. So he would, according to him, what he wanted to create was a situation where only people with Finnish genes are allowed to live legally in Finland. There might be, I don't know, like guest worker schemes or something like that. But even Swedish-speaking Finns, according to him, must you know, to continue to live here, that they must adopt Finnish as their first language or whatever. I have less of an issue with language, but anyway, my response to all of this is firstly, what is ethnicity anyway? So how do you decide what exactly does and does not constitute Finnish genes? So, these people that I know who would consider themselves to be 100% Finnish, but their um, previous generations, they were from this Karelia region, which is in the southeast of Finland, that's now part of Russia. And, there are other Finns who've got Swedish origins. Um, So what about those sorts of people? Are they classified as Finnish according to the kind of ethno-nationalist point of view, or even say somebody like my son, who's 50% of his genes come from me, 50% come from his mother, who's a Finn. So I've always thought this anyway, that all of this stuff, it's all very reminiscent of the German moustache man, isn't it? From the 1930s, who had this obsession with the blood and all of this nonsense. And yeah, as I keep on trying to explain, there's no firm dividing lines, I don't think, between different racial groups, even let alone different nationalities, because there's always been people moving around. So nobody is you know um, solely of a particular national genotype anyway. The whole idea that you could, how would you measure it? That's another good point. Are we going to go down the route of blood tests? Is a threshold going to be set? That if you've got fewer than 70% or less than 70% genes, whether you can count it or not, I don't know. You're going to be forced out of the country. Seems like a bad idea. Second thing to say about it is that it smacks of statism. The ethno-nationalist wants to live in a society where the government runs society for the benefit of people that have a particular set of genes. As a libertarian, I don't like that idea at all, because governments are run by politicians. What type of politician wants to get into power well, politicians who get off on that type of thing, who have a desire to control other people. And so they'll tend to enact policy for their benefit rather than for the people's benefit. So not a good idea. I'm not a big fan of ethno-nationalism. What else? Oh yeah. So what? So if ethno-nationalism isn't the answer, what is? Well, if you think about what's happening now in Britain, and I can really understand the concerns here. You've got thousands of people coming across in boats. There'll be others coming across in the back of trucks and stuff, and there'll be others arriving at the airport, maybe on student visas who end up staying, or chain migration, all of this other stuff. So I can really understand people's concerns over that, because if you have more people in a country and you don't build enough houses, you don't build enough hospitals, you don't build enough roads, you're going to get an excess demand problem, you're going to get congestion, you're going to get a shortage of facilities. This, incidentally, I think even exists in Finland, in the Helsinki region, where a lot of the migrants tend to congregate. So there, you've got a massive increase in demand for services, but supply's not being increased. So life there, it wouldn't be for my liking. So what's the ethno-nationalist solution, I guess, is that you create the equivalent of a gated community. You create the equivalent of a prison camp, don't you, called a country, where it's this tight controls on entry into that country. I don't think that that's the type of country that I don't want to live in, a prison, an open air prison, or I don't want to live inside a castle with high walls. I don't, that's run by some government with all sorts of powers. Doesn't seem the way to go forward to me. So for me, to actually solve a problem, you need to correctly diagnose it. So the question is, like, why are people from the third world coming to the UK en masse? And the answer is pretty simple. It's not down to the weather, that Britain's got fantastic weather, or they've come for British culture, that they've been fans of Mr. Bean and they want to view some British eccentricity that incidentally died 20 years ago. But that's beyond the point. So why do they come? Well, answer is we'll call it, it's not free, but free NHS funded by taxpayers. Again, free in inverted commas, state education, and then also obviously welfare benefits. So if you haven't got any skills and you live in a crappy life in a third world country, and you can come to Britain and get housed by the state, and your kids can get educated, and you've got free healthcare, then of course you're going to come to Britain. So for me, the problem isn't a lack of border controls, or you can diagnose the problem in that way if you want, but the real problem, I would say, is the pull factor. What's pulling these people in here? And is it a good idea anyway? And I would say, for me, if I was trying to solve this problem, if you got rid of the NHS, if you got rid of state education, and you got rid of the welfare state, and I mean completely, then just imagine, obviously you would cut government spending down to, well, I don't know, 5% of what it currently is, if you got rid of all of that stuff. So you can imagine how low taxes would be. And that would create massive incentives for people to get on with their lives and start serving one another, rather than just asking the mummy government to look after them. So that's what I would do. I would scrap all the welfare, state education, NHS, get rid of the whole lot of it, and then you don't need to worry. You could actually go back to the world as it was before World War One, where there was no such thing as passports. For me personally, that would be my solution. Just get rid of welfare. Then you don't need to worry about migration, because people would stop coming. Some people might say, well, some people might come to do crime. Some people might come to do begging. Well, obviously the rule of law would apply equally to those people, and they would be in, you know, you could deport those people or imprison them, and you know, maybe you'd have to use some quite strict penalties in the short run to disincentivize people from moving to do crime and run drug gangs and all the rest of it. But that's the world that I would like to live in, is where there is free movement. There is there are no for, there are no passports. People can come and go, so you can come here, and so long as you look after yourself. But what's not acceptable is to move to a country and accept, or demand rather, that the taxpayers in that country look after you. You know, that is just, it's just not acceptable, and it's completely unsustainable. So yeah, that's these are the reasons why I'm not an ethno-nationalist. It's really stupid. You, what you're going to do, like go around measuring the width of people's noses, like, you know, the German National Socialists did. It's just complete nonsense. There are, you know, even in Finland, you can tell there's quite a lot of diversity amongst the pale-skinned Finns. You know, they, not that many people have come and gone from Finland, but there is enough to create some sort of a genetic mixture here. And you know, I would just say, you know, I am a fan of Martin Luther King, which was in his phrase of judge somebody according to the content of the character rather than according to the colour of their skin. And these ethno-nationalists, I think they're quite dangerous people in that they're hostile towards Klaus Schwab, but what they actually want is to create something very similar to Klaus Schwab. You know, they want an all-powerful technocratic government. They don't want individual freedom and liberty. I'm the opposite to that. That's what I get off on. That's the world that I want to live in, and I would love to live in a world where we don't have any of this nonsense at borders, and people can just come and go. But come and go at your own expense, and don't expect other people in other countries to, you know, fund your desire to have 8 kids, free schools, free NHS. That's the problem. It's the welfare state and you know, lavish public services, expensive public services by third world standards in Britain, and it causes the poor factor. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say today. So God bless you.